Hello everyone. Today we'll take a look at Dataplex Explore for executing some Spark SQL against BigQuery internal tables, external tables, and Hive tables. We also will take a look at the notebook experience. Using Dataplex Explore requires a Dataproc Metastore to be provisioned and attached to your data lake, so I've gone ahead and automated this process as well as created your default environment. So let's jump in and see what we need to do. The first thing you need to do is run the DAG Dataplex with HMX deploy. And this stands for Hive Metastore Service, or the Dataproc Metastore. And this will provision your data lake, the Dataproc Metastore, and attach the Metastore to the taxi data lake. There's also a destroy one. This runs every 15 minutes, and after 8 hours, it will remove your Metastore and your lakes to save on costs. So mine's just disabled for now, but typically this will be enabled, and it runs and it will deprovision your environment automatically. So let's head over to Dataplex, and we'll go to Manage, and we'll see our data lakes. So you'll have a series of data lakes here, and you can click on Taxi Data Lake, and click on Details, and you should see the Metastore service up and running, and it has been attached to this lake. In the Environments tab, I've also provisioned the default environment and set it as Fast Startup. So those two are already done by the DAG, and then the teardown DAG will destroy or remove these resources. So the next piece is the script. So let me just jump to the cloud storage bucket. So the SQL script for this demo is in the code bucket. So the code bucket in Dataplex Explore, and then we have a SQL script. And you can just click this link, and this will go ahead and bring open that script, and you can copy this code. So once you've copied the code, head over to the Dataplex Explorer. I currently have this open since I have everything run. And inside the Explorer, make sure you pick Taxi Data Lake, and then you'll have a new SQL script, and I've simply pasted it in here. So this is that same code we just saw. So let's take a look at the code and run through the examples. So the code is going to execute BigQuery directly from Spark SQL. So these are going to be BigQuery internal tables. Next, we'll do the data lake tables or external tables. We'll create some Hive tables and insert data, and then we'll go ahead and write a query that joins BigQuery internal tables to the Hive tables to the BigQuery external tables. So when you run these queries, you can select them and you copy it, and here I've just put it in query 1, and you would paste it here. So we're going to go ahead and run this. I have the results below, but we'll kick it off, and then we'll jump over to BigQuery and look at what it's doing. So I'm going to open a new tab here, and here let's take a look at BigQuery so we can see what tables we're querying in this example. So when you run and create your data lake, you'll see these additional data sets being created. They have the random extension that matches your project there, and these are scanned and automatically discovered by Dataplex. So for instance here, we have our process tables, and these are going to be external tables on your data lake. You can see they're external tables, but right now we're querying tables that are internal to BigQuery. So let me click here, and it's running, and let's take a look at the data. So within the data, I had to initialize a session, so it's going to take an extra minute or two. The session shuts down after 10 minutes, so again, you can also configure that. So we are looking at the curated zone, and inside the curated zone, you'll see these process tables, and they match what's in BigQuery. So we see all of our process tables, and then within here, you'll see our BigQuery tables. So these tables are our BigQuery tables, and we'll head over to BigQuery just so you can see what that looks like. And these will be our BigQuery tables, taxi trips. So these tables are part of Dataplex, and then we have our discovered tables that are also part of Dataplex. And you can tell the difference because it will have the name of the zone with the random extension. So looking here at the data exploration side, you have your curated zone that includes your external tables and your internal tables, and these are discovered automatically by Dataplex. And then we have our raw zone that also has discovered tables. So this query executed, and you can see it ran and brought back our results. So this was just a pure BigQuery internal table query. And then the second query here is going to do the same exact thing. We could execute this, and kick it off. But what this is going to do, it's going to go ahead and do the process. So these are going to be the external tables that will go ahead and run. So we don't have to initialize a session, but it will have to go ahead and kick off that Spark job. The next piece here is creating tables. So we can create tables, basically Hive tables, inside our warehouse here. If you look at the default, you will see we have this table. This is called the taxi driver table, and we can open up this table, and I'll open up in a second and see where it's stored and everything. So this is stored inside the Hive warehouse and under taxi driver, and this could be any GCS bucket. So I went ahead and created those two tables. So I have the two tables, taxi and taxi review, and then I went ahead and inserted data. So this is just part of the script. So I separated it into separate tabs so it's easy to follow. So I went ahead and inserted data into the first table and then into the second table, and then I was able to select the data. So you can do a select star here, run this, and this will go ahead and kick off that Spark job to select star from that table. And let's take a look at the other table. We have our select star from taxi review. So those tables are Hive-based tables. And then we have our final query here that you can execute and play around with, would be the BigQuery internal tables joined to our Hive table, which is then joined to our taxi lake table. So it does get results, and I'll kick this off as well, and we'll let this go ahead and run. So while this is running, you can save these scripts, and you can also do script sharing. So if you wanted to share this script with other people, you can go ahead and share this to other people in your organization, and they can have access to them, and they will show up here in the Spark SQL scripts. So you have security around the various scripts. So when we look at the Hive table, let's see if we can open up the Hive table while those things are executing. So inside the details tab, you'll see the full path of this table. Since I didn't specify when I did a create table here, I just used a relative path. I didn't specify the full GCS path, so it puts it inside the Metastore bucket. So typically I would put this in my own bucket so I know exactly where that table is. So this script came back. So you can see here we've joined between all three different environments: BigQuery internal, BigQuery external, and our Hive table. The other piece I like to jump into is data catalog. So let me see if I can get back here and scroll all the way back. Good. And data catalog, we can see where these Hive tables are stored. Let's open up a new tab, and it will load up the taxi review. And you can see, even though we've created a Hive table, it is inside our data catalog, and it's shown as Dataproc Metastore. And then we can go ahead and see that schema, and we can actually see schema or lineage as well. So that is available inside the data catalog. In addition, we can schedule this. So I can go ahead and click create a schedule. Let's do a smaller script here. So we can go ahead and create a schedule, and we can give it a name. We'll just call it test for now, test schedule, and repeat daily. Or you can do custom. So you can go ahead and do a custom into a cron expression, and then you could pick your output folder name. So in this case, I would typically pick a folder over here and have it called Dataplex Explore output. And our script format, we can then export this as CSV, JSON, or Parquet. So it gives you that flexibility. I will, and then your service account. So typically I have a Dataproc service account already provisioned, and I would use this service account. I will make one note that in order to run this, it expects you to have the default network set up. Since this demo doesn't have the default network set up, that option currently isn't available. So I would be scheduling this with the REST API. The REST API would let you run this, and inside of the parameters here, you can do some execution spec, pick the service account here. We can also look at the other pieces. I think it's under Spark. We could pick our Python script, and then we can also pick our project. And under one of these, we'll have our infrastructure spec, and that would let us run the environment and pick that. So forget where it's at right now. I'm checking, but let's see, it's under execution spec. It should be under one of these where it shows the actual environment, and we can pick it. Let me check here. Here we go. it's under notebook, and under infrastructure spec, I can pick the VPC network and go ahead and pick the subnet. So it is buried a little bit under there. This would be the curl command. So it's very useful to go ahead and copy this, and then you can run this locally. Typically I replace this with a G-Cloud to get my current token, but then you could schedule this if you have a different network until that option's available in the user interface. So we also have the ability to do notebooks. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab. And so I'll just leave that stuff open and we'll look at the notebook experience. So it does load up those prior pieces, but we will pick notebooks. And here's a notebook that I brought in. So this is currently a existing notebook. So to bring in the demo notebook, you will select import and the 3 dots up here. And here we can find our notebook, and that's going to be in the code folder. And we'll pick Dataplex Explore, and we can pick our notebook. And I'll just call this demo for now, and we can import the notebook. So I will go ahead and bring the notebook. And again, the ability to schedule a notebook is here. You can click this, you can share it, and you can also schedule it. So same scheduling user interface, it just has an output directory. So I'll click on that. If I create a schedule, it will be the exact same interface as the output name for your results. But let's go ahead and open the notebook and give it a quick run through. First time, I don't know if when you run this, it might authenticate. I think I've already authenticated. So let's go ahead and see if it will pop up. There it goes. So while this opens, you're able to run Python code within the notebook, and also the BigQuery keyword, magic keyword has been installed. So for instance, if I want to execute this cell, I can go ahead and run it with the BigQuery magic keyword, and this will send this query over to BigQuery and we'll get our results directly back in our notebook. So it's very handy. So if you're exploring BigQuery tables, you can go ahead and use the magic keyword. You can also put the data into a data frame. So if I execute this, it's going to run the query, and it's going to put the results into a data frame. And we'll go ahead and click display that data frame, and then we can bring in a plot. So we can go ahead and show a chart, and that should bring in that library, and then we will execute and show a graph of our results from our data frame. So I give that a second to run, and we have our results. So jumping back to the notebook here, you can share them. You can change your environments, so you might have more than one environment, so that's available, and you can go ahead and explore those options. So I think that covers everything I wanted to show during the demo. So go ahead and give Dataplex Explore a try, and as always, thanks for watching.